She went quiet, and your nervous system did what it always does. It filled the silence with fear. Then one message appears. And suddenly, you're asking the wrong question. What do I say to keep her? Pause, take a breath. I am going to slow this moment down for you, because what happens in the next few minutes determines whether you lead this dynamic or surrender it. I'm not speaking to you as a friend I'm speaking as a female psychologist who understands exactly how power shifts in attraction. When a woman disappears and then reaches out again, most men assume the test is about clever words. It's not. The real test is emotional positioning. Silence creates imbalance, because the human brain hates uncertainty. Your mind rushed to close the loop. Hers didn't. That already tells you something important. She regulated just fine without contact. You didn't? That's not a flaw. It's a signal. Here's the truth. Most men never hear. When she texts after silence, she isn't looking for reassurance. She's checking where she stands relative to you. She wants to know whether you collapsed inward or stayed centered. Women don't measure power through dominance. They measure it through emotional gravity. Who stayed grounded when nothing was happening? If your reply rushes, if it overexplains, if it jokes too hard, if it pretends nothing happened, you communicate one thing. The silence affected me more than it affected you. Attraction weakens there, not because you cared, but because you lost posture. Psychologically, silence creates what we call an open loop. When she returns, she's closing that loop to see if the emotional temperature stayed stable. The man who keeps his power doesn't punish her. He doesn't interrogate. He doesn't perform. He responds from the same emotional altitude he had before she disappeared. This is where most men get it wrong. They think regaining power means pulling away or acting cold. It doesn't. That's still reactive. Power isn't withdrawal. Power is non-urgency. It's the calm assumption that your life continued uninterrupted. Here's the correct mindset. Her message is not relief. It's an invitation. And you decide how, or if, you step back into the conversation. Notice the difference. When you see her text as relief, you shrink. When you see it as an invitation, you expand. Women are exquisitely sensitive to this shift, not consciously, but neurologically. Your tone, your pacing, your emotional weight, they tell her whether you were waiting or living. One creates comfort without desire. The other creates curiosity, mixed with respect. And here's something uncomfortable but freeing. If she disappeared and came back, she never fully closed the door. She left it ajar to see what you'd do with yourself in her absence. That's not manipulation. That's human attachment behavior. Now, listen carefully, because this is where power returns quietly to your hands. No confrontation. No coldness. No pretending you didn't care. Words matter less than energy, but there is a sentence that carries the right psychological weight. When she texts after silence, the highest valued response does three things at once. It acknowledges reality, it shows emotional self-control, and it reestablishes your pace. Most men only do one, usually acknowledgement, and skip the rest. Be very clear about what not to do. Don't ask where she went. Don't say I was wondering what happened. Don't to joke at how why. And don't over-explain how busy you were. That still centers her. The sentence that regains power sounds simple, but it's psychologically loaded. Hey, good to hear from you. Hope you've been well. That's it. No question mark. No emotional hook. No follow-up paragraph. This response communicates four things instantly. First, you notice the absence without emotional charge. Second, you express warmth without pursuit. Third, the lack of urgency shows you weren't waiting. Fourth, you hand the conversational effort back to her. Why does this work? Because attraction grows in the space between emotional safety and emotional mystery. Your message provides safety without chasing clarity. Now, her nervous system has to decide, do I step forward or let this fade? If she's genuinely interested, she feels a subtle loss of leverage, not because you ignored her, but because you didn't reward silence with extra access. She expected relief or resentment. She got neither. That creates curiosity. If she was unsure about you, this response forces a choice. She can't hover passively anymore. She must invest or disengage. That's power. Not control over her. Control over yourself. Some men worry this makes them seem indifferent. It doesn't. Indifference is cold. This is calm, and calm is deeply masculine to the female psyche because it signals internal stability. Women are biologically drawn to emotional regulation, especially during uncertainty. Let me correct a dangerous myth. Regaining power isn't about winning. It's about restoring balance. When you respond from grounded neutrality, you're saying, I don't abandon myself when connection pauses. That's what women test for, even unconsciously. If she responds with enthusiasm, proceed naturally. If she responds minimally, don't chase, match. Power is maintained through consistency, not escalation. If she doesn't respond at all, you didn't lose anything. You simply refused to overinvest in someone who couldn't meet you at your level. Here's what changes internally when you handle this moment correctly. Your nervous system signals self-trust matters more than confidence lines or tactics. Self-trust is the foundation of masculine presence, and presence is what women feel, not analyze. Most men live in anticipatory tension. They anticipate loss, rejection, abandonment, so their behavior becomes preemptive. They reach out early, explain too much, seek clarity too fast. When silence hits, tension spikes. When the text arrives, they discharge it through intensity. That feels like relief to the man, but pressure to the woman. When you stay grounded, you don't discharge tension onto her. You absorb Italiano psychologically. This reverses polarity. She feels space to move toward you, not responsibility to stabilize you. That's why calm feels attractive without being dramatic. There's another layer most men miss. Silence, followed by re-engagement, often happens during alignment checks. She may have been busy, distracted, uncertain, sorting her emotions. When she returns, she's not just checking availability, she's checking consistency. Are you the same man when circumstances shift? Consistency isn't routine. It's consistency of self. When your tone stays steady, you feel reliable without being predictable. That's rare. And rarity increases value. Now, what not to do after she replies again? Don't suddenly speed up. Don't text more. Don't explain more. Don't plan too much too soon. That's the second collapse of power. Momentum doesn't mean acceleration. It means direction. Match her investment. If she opens up, open proportionally. If she keeps it light, keep it light. This isn't manipulation. It's pacing, and pacing protects connection. The man who keeps his center during silence doesn't just attract women. He stops being ruled by them. He no longer interprets gaps as verdicts on his worth. Dating becomes lighter, cleaner, and paradoxically, more successful. Women sense when a man's identity is internally sourced. It shows up in micro behaviors. Response timing, sentence length, emotional weight. You don't announce it. Your behavior broadcasts it. And no, this doesn't only work on certain women. It works on emotionally healthy women because it feels safe. It works on uncertain women because it creates clarity. And it filters out those who want attention without intention. This is the quiet shift. You stop trying to secure connection. You start offering it from stability. That's when women lean in, not because they're chased, but because they're invited. Hold this posture long enough, and something surprising happens. Silence stops bothering you. Texts stop controlling your mood. When she reaches out, you're not hoping. You're choosing. That's not a game. That's psychological maturity. Here is the anchor I want you to keep. Power isn't what you say after silence. Power is who you become in the silence. When she disappears and returns, the real question isn't, how do I get her back? It is, did I stay aligned with myself when there was nothing to respond to? Men who win in dating aren't immune to uncertainty. They're just no longer ruled by it. Here is the paradox women feel but rarely say. They want a man who is emotionally available, and emotionally available means warm, present, responsive. Self-contained means his identity doesn't fracture when attention pauses. A calm response demonstrates both at once. That's why chasing never works long-term. It externalizes your center. Punishing silence doesn't work either. It turns connection into a scorecard. Both come from fear. Calm comes from groundedness. And groundedness is magnetic. As a psychologist, I'll tell you what most dating advice avoids. You don't regain power by controlling outcomes. You regain power by controlling process. Your process is how you respond, how you pace, how you interpret behavior. When your process is stable, outcomes follow. If she re-engages fully, continue naturally. If she fades again, don't spiral. No follow-ups. No explanations. No forced closure. That's not detachment. That's discernment. And women feel the difference instantly. Silence isn't the enemy. It's the mirror. It shows you where your emotional balance actually lives. When you stop fearing it, everything changes. You stop guessing. You start choosing. And something unexpected happens. Women relax around you. And paradoxically, invest more. Safety plus polarity. Calm plus curiosity. That's the combination. Remember this equation. Self-respect plus emotional control equals attraction without chasing. Now, tell me, when she went silent and came back, did you respond from anxiety or alignment? Comment below with one word. If this shifted something in you, like the video so it reaches the men who need it. Subscribe for deeper psychological clarity. And share this with one friend who keeps losing his power the moment the phone lights up.